long term, I have very little concern with TreVeyon Henderson. But yeah, for this week, it's going to be really hard to trust him in a lineup.
Yeah, and another rookie that I think we're going to have to put on our benches is RJ Harvey.
I'm in the same boat. It's basically like same exact analysis I had with Henderson. It's like we knew this was going to happen. We knew J.K. Dobbins was going to be involved early in the season. Let's have some context with rookies, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, first 4 games, plays 43% of the snaps. Like I remember people freaking out about Bijan, especially after that first week. Then he immediately comes out like week 2 or week 3 and just has an explosive game. Like it's going to take time with these rookie running backs, even the best ones. It takes time.
What? Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.
Which players should be going in your lineup and which players should be sitting down? Which players should you be stashing heading into week 3 of fantasy football? It's been gloom and doom for so many rookie running backs, Graham. Ashton Genty managers are tilting. Omarion Hampton managers are tilting. TreVeyon Henderson managers are tilting. But Quinshon Judkins managers are vibing. Judkins last week against the Baltimore Ravens debuts, goes over 60 yards rushing, also has 3 receptions. Cleveland was blown out, but Quinshon Judkins looked the part of a running back selected in the top 40 picks, college star at Ohio State. It seems like his trajectory is pointing up, but just how high? Are we trusting Quinshon Judkins in our fantasy lineups this week?
So Packers are going to be obviously the premier defense this season. I think that's clear and obvious to everybody. The Browns have like just a terrible implied total, but yeah, man, I view Judkins as like a pretty decent flex play already. We kind of saw how the Browns viewed him to start, right? Like he got the start in that game, played ahead of Dylan Sampson in terms of the snaps, got 10 carries, led the team in carries. You mentioned, had a few dump off targets as well. I'm viewing him as like kind of the same way I viewed him in the middle of the summer before all of his legal troubles started, like pretty good bell cow upside. Like, yeah, the offense is not going to be, top 5 or anything, but plenty of volume by expected fantasy points. I mean, he and Jerome Ford basically had the same figure last season. So or last week, excuse me. I'm viewing this as like very bullish for him to start. And again, he had like 1 padded practice, dude. Like, he basically hadn't practiced all of August, missed all of training camp. Comes out 1 padded practice and has a pretty decent role. So yeah, for this week, the RB3 pile, Theo, is just like wide open. I think once you get past like RB20 this week, it's literally like eye of the beholder. Like wherever you want to rank these guys, I'd be fine with, but I put Judkins like firmly at the top of that list this week.
Yeah, and just looking at our projections on fantasy points, I agree with you. It's sort of this big, like wide list of names that you can consider for your flex position. And if you're in a bind, your RB2 position. Judkins is really, really interesting because there's managers out there holding 13th round Quinshon Judkins exposure, 14th round Quinshon Judkins exposure. There was like a whole panic and fear that he was going to get this massive suspension. The Cleveland could potentially move on from him. He was unsigned. And now it's just like, hey, guess what? Quinshon Judkins is here and he practices 1 day, like you said, and we're starting him. And for me, the fact that he looks so good, that's sort of a positive sign for the way he approaches the game. Judkins came in extremely in shape, extremely ready to go. So for me, I'm having enthusiasm levels about Judkins. I think when we look at this sort of unknown upside profile, there's plenty of players who a smart guy like Chris Wecht might project to have more points than him this week, but a range of outcomes guy, Quinshon Judkins, maybe they game plan against Green Bay and they say the physicality of this defense must be met with Quinshon Judkins. Let's give him 20 carries this game and just see if we can challenge that front 7. You don't know how the game planning is going to be. Green Bay's a difficult defense to do anything against these days. Completely shut down Detroit, completely shut down Washington. Washington had a 4th quarter score that made it look a little closer than it was. So Cleveland, what do they have to lose here? I think that they're going to use Judkins. I'm going to treat him as sort of a high-end RB3, low-end RB2 type with potential to have a high-volume number of touches. Another red-hot rookie, and managers are just itching to get him in their fantasy lineup. He scored a touchdown last week and literally stole a defender's soul. It was such a nasty touchdown. Bhayshul Tuten just completely puts people on skates, extremely explosive. And now with Tank Bigsby gone, Tuten is getting enough snaps, enough opportunities to be fantasy viable. Do you have trust in Tuten to use him as an upside flex play?
So that's the thing, is like, I think that's where we're trending towards, man, is like, yeah, he's going to eventually be a viable flex play. I'm not sure if I'm there just yet. I mean, just last week, ETN was still pretty much full-blown workhorse. He's not a bell cow because Tuten is just going to continue to cut in. But ETN, 66% of the snaps. Bhayshul Tuten had 26%. Anybody that would listen to me this offseason, read yards created, knows how high I am on Bhayshul Tuten. So like this isn't surprising at all to me that he's playing this well already. That being said, what has been a surprise is ETN. Like ETN looks fully back. Maybe that hamstring injury just really kind of crushed his season last year. I'm viewing this as like a 1A, 1B committee type situation by the middle of the season where maybe Tuten does become that 1A. But Travis Etienne is not going to go away into that good night, man. Like he looks fully back. That being said, yeah, I think Tuten is like probably the highest upside bench stash in fantasy football right now. If Etienne were to miss time, Tuten would probably be like a 16, 17, 18, 19 XFP per game type player. Just huge role on a pretty good offense that obviously is going to be able to run the ball. I mean, that's like a staple of Liam Cohen's offenses, is just being able to, gash defenses either with the run or the design screen game. I love Bhayshul Tuten, love his long-term upside. Dynasty managers have to be freaking fist pumping in the air, man. Like this is everything we kind of expected. That being said, yeah, I think Tuten, to me, he's still kind of like on that sketchy flex territory. If you're like screwed at running back this week and you just desperately need some upside, then yeah, sure, throw Tuten in a lineup. But I'm still not all the way there yet.
Yeah, and for me, it's sort of, I could also approach it if I'm a big underdog in my matchup and I need just to chase upside. If I'm like, let's say one of those, you play Yahoo, you play ESPN, it might say you're a 39% chance to win, a 40%, not my teams, bro. But other teams,
yeah,
bro,
you're the 60. We're the 60%.
Yeah, I'm the 64.
Guys.
But if you're going up against somebody like Grammar, you might want to swing for the fences. A Bhayshul Tuten versus sort of a floor play. I agree with you. Travis Etienne, the confidence level for him, I think mid RB2. Yep. And that Houston Texans team, they were not as good against Tampa Bay's running backs as I anticipated. Bucky Irving, a really, really strong game. Again, Bucky added some stats towards the end of the game, but it was the game-winning drive. It wasn't some garbage time thing. And Rachaad White, of course, ran very, very hard, had the game-winning touchdown. So I think there's potential that both Jacksonville running backs produce this week. ETN easily the better bet. Got to talk about our guy, Jacory Croskey-Merritt. Jacory Croskey-Merritt, big disappointment last week, but now has another lifeline. Austin Eckler, unfortunately, headed to the injured reserves. Big fan of Austin Eckler. Really almost a fantasy legend for us the last few years. Had an RB1 overall season, an RB2 overall season, the second most receptions all time in a season, led the NFL in touchdowns one year. So we hate seeing a guy his age have this sort of an injury, but it does open up a door for Jacory Croskey-Merritt, potentially opens up a door for a guy like Jeremy McNichols. But let's specifically talk about Croskey-Merritt. Is JCM in our starting lineups this week? Again, this is another tricky one because Jaden Daniels looks like he's going to miss one.
So that's the thing, man. Like, Commanders are still 3.5-point favorites in this game over the Raiders. Obviously, it'll be Marcus Mariota, most likely under center here. I was just working through the rest of season projections, right? Like going through the rankings, and I put JCM at like RB26, RB27. And yeah, it's like Jeremy McNichols is going to play on passing downs. But who's to say that like this kid's not just talented enough to force the Commanders to go a little more run heavy than they typically were kind of expecting to go? And this is a good matchup. We were on JCM week 1. We were on JCM week 2. Didn't work out so well. Probably should have factored in that matchup because like we talked about at the top of the show, I mean, Packers are just like a bear of a defense. Raiders complete opposite spot. Again, Mariota starting, kind of expect them to go a little more run heavy. I'm seeing JCM as like this week specifically, like 12, 13, 14 carries, maybe the upside to get to 16, 18 if it's like a big leading game script. So yeah, I think he's a high upside flex, low end RB2 this week. Plug him right into your lineups, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. And this is the sort of game where if you have him on your team and you're not using him in this matchup as a 3.5-point favorite with no Jane Daniels, then you should trade him because you're never going to use them at this point if you don't want to. Like, this is what you've been waiting for. It's a running back injury. Chris Rodriguez has been inactive for 2 games. Sort of the narrative that Chris Rodriguez is going to come in and have a high number of touches. I don't buy into that one. Jeremy McNichols has been a journeyman throughout his career, has had some nice moments, and he's a very good pass blocker. So I do think he'll have a role. But for me, it's JCM, it's Jacory Croskey-Merritt. We saw how good he was in week 1. He was like RB17 on the week in PPR leagues. I think that's the sort of number you should be chasing. I don't think he's going to give you some high-end RB1 production, but I do think you're going to get a nice flex play, an RB2 play. I think JCM goes right in there. To read Graham's articles over at Fantasy Points, to check out our incredible projections, our rest of the season top 150, all of the amazing tools that we offer, use the code Theo at fantasypoints.com, get 15% off. And if you really want to scale your fantasy game up to an even higher level, subscribe to Fantasy Points Data, an unreal source of analytical information that'll really take your game to the next level. The code Theo also works for that one. So let's talk about it. Okay. Week 1, we are ecstatic over Marvin Harrison Jr. He scores a touchdown. He could have had another long touchdown. And now it's a little bit more of the same where we go back to 2024. The frustration levels with Harrison Jr. managers, you couldn't even describe them unless you were there, sort of moment where Harrison Jr. gets drafted at the 1-2 turn, averages 11.6 points per game, finishes wide receiver 39 in terms of points per game. Right now, through 2 games played, he's at 11.4 points per game. Yep. He's the wide receiver 38. And the problem last year, Graham, there was plenty of high-scoring games for Marvin Harrison Jr. He had a wide receiver 1 overall weekly performance. He had a wide receiver 4 overall weekly performance. He had a number of like 15+ point per game performances. The problems were the duds. Multiple games where he had 7 points or fewer. I believe he had 8 games last year with 7 points or fewer points scored. And guess what? This past week, another complete dud, fewer than 5 points per game in PPR formats. And this is after, again, an 18-pointer in week 1. Now we're back in week 3. Where are you at with Marvin Harrison Jr.? What's your frustration level and what's your confidence level? Where are you at on him?
The most frustrating thing right now is the Cardinals are the second most pass-heavy team in the league by our pass rate over expectation metrics. The Chargers are number 1. Raiders are number 3. Chiefs, number 4. Again, Cardinals are number 2. And again, this guy, the targets are earned. I've been saying this my entire 10-year career. Like, targets by receivers are it's very binary. Either you're on the field and earning targets or you're not. And for 2 years straight now, we have kind of wide receiver 3 levels of target earning. It's a twofold problem. It's Trey McBride is just that damn good. Like, in terms of first read target share, he has just been dominating for 18, 19 straight games now. He's doing it again this year. This offense is just built around him. And especially in games where, like last week, why we identified that game is like, yeah, the Saints, not the Saints, but their opponent that was playing just a ton of cover 3. The Panthers played a ton of cover 3. That's where McBride excels, and he continues to do it against cover 3. A lot of zone-heavy defenses. McBride is going to be their guy. 39% first read target share through 2 games for McBride compared to just 22 for Harrison. Dude, I'm in the same spot I've been with Harrison since last year. I ranked him below ADP last year, ranked him below ADP this year. It's not because of the talent. Like, if he had gone to another team that was more, a little more wide receiver centric, then yeah, I mean, he could be crushing. But on this team, on this current Cardinals team, and the way he's, kind of used, and the targets that he's not getting, it's all because of Trey McBride. Again, he's just kind of a wide receiver 3 flex play. That's where I've been writing him up. He's been in the flex play category for me for like 15 straight start sit articles, and I don't really see that changing.
Yeah, I'll say Chris Wecht, not a big fan of Marvin Harrison Jr. this week in our current projections. I think I'm probably a little higher than Chris is. I think I'm with you. He's a flex play. If you have him as your wide receiver 2, sort of hold your breath. If you have him as your wide receiver 1, really, really hold your breath. But if you have him as your wide receiver 3, I think you just ride the wave, and it's going to be this story again. And hopefully there's fewer games like week 2, like we saw in really the key for Marvin Harrison Jr. is just avoiding weeks like week 2. Can we turn 4-point games into 10-point games, 9-point games? And then he's going to mix in his big spike weeks because he's super athletic. He's a high pedigree player, and he's capable of putting up big spike weeks for us. So it's really consistency, but that's a lot of flex players. I just think we hold him to a higher standard. I think we need to really adjust our priors and expectations when it comes to Marvin Harrison Jr. Was a 4th-round pick for a reason. Like a lot of those 4th-round picks, it's going to be like this. It's not going to be smooth. So really, really a frustrating one. But yes, put him in your lineup.
Yeah, one thing I want to add is like the usage. This is one thing I brought up this offseason is like the usage with him was not great last year. Like if you just isolated the vertically breaking routes, like he and Kyler's chemistry was just not very good. They are using him on a lot more of like these horizontally breaking routes this season. Or, according to our data suite, that's up significantly. It's just, again, like these targets are earned, and it's just like he has this whale of a target earner in Trey McBride. That's just like it's not going away. Like that's the biggest thing. Like 48% of Harrison's routes this year have been horizontally breaking. That's up significantly from last year. It's just, Trey McBride really is just that good. It's like, this is like a prime Travis Kelce, prime Rob Gronkowski type player who I obviously everybody's treating him as like one of the top tier tight ends, but Harrison's usage is up, way up. We want him running way more, horizontally breaking routes. It's just, I think Trey McBride, like we need to put a lot more respect on his name.
Yeah, Trey McBride is unbelievable. We're going to see some big spike weeks out of him, maybe even this week against San Francisco. Big game for both of these teams as well. Another big game, and it's one that we didn't expect would be a huge game for Kansas City, but Kansas City's 0-2. They're sizable favorites on the road in New York. New York showed some absolute life last week on offense. Russell Wilson had a tremendous game. Malik Neighbors might be the best wide receiver in the game right now. Wan'Dale Robinson, high-level performance. Cam Scadaboo found the end zone. So I think they're a live dog, and Kansas City cannot show up and expect to have the same offensive ineptitude that they had against Philadelphia, that they had against LA at times, and expect to just coast through this one. Where are you at on Xavier Worthy? If he suits up, what's your trust factor in him? We saw Tyquan Thornton have a touchdown catch last week. We saw Hollywood Brown with those ridiculous amount of targets the week before. Could this be Xavier Worthy coming in and being the offensive focal point as Kansas City looks to turn things around? Or do you have trepidation about him playing with a shoulder harness?
So I think he'll be a limited player in terms of the routes he runs, right? Like he's probably not going to be the 80 to 85, 90% full-time player this coming week. But Ian Rappaport said on Sunday ahead of week 2 that the Chiefs are expecting him to play. When he's out there, I think he's going to be heavily targeted. This offense clearly, they have to have something, right? Like we've been on this with Mahomes for a couple of years now where his deep ball efficiency just has not been as good, and that's definitely carried over into this season. They need not just a deep threat and Worthy. They need the design stuff around the line of scrimmage, kind of get this guy in space. So I'm not like expecting obviously like a big role for this week, but I am a little like optimistic that he can play through this injury. So I went back and looked. Dalvin Cook, George Kittle, both have had torn labrums, have had similar injuries, played with harnesses, and played well with those harnesses. It just it really increases their long-term like re-injury risk. T. Higgins, same thing. He put off surgery in that 2021 season, played through it, played well through it. Bengals went to the freaking Super Bowl with him. So the Chiefs, they just desperately need something, man. Like Kelce, it's kind of over for him. We can't be trotting out Tyquan Thornton deep balls like every week. Like they really got to get it going here. And like you said, 0-2. I'm putting Worthy back in my lineups as a pretty decent flex play, wide receiver 3. We were hoping for like really strong wide receiver 2 levels of production with him. I still think we can get there by midseason if he plays well through this. But for this week specifically, yeah, I think you got to trust him as a flex play.
Yeah, I'm with you. And if everything was smooth sailing for Kansas City right now, I would find a reason to put him on the bench. But again, it's not desperation mode. They're still a franchise that is used to winning, but they do need to win this game. They need to inject some life into this offense. They need to give Patrick Mahomes some help. And I think Worthy's going to be that. And I think when people hear shoulder harness, they don't know what to make of it. But like you said, that there's been a decent success rate of players using it. That you mentioned Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook had the game. It was like 2021 where I think he set like a Vikings record or something for rushing yards. He had 150 in the first half. Unbelievable performance. That was like, I think it was a Monday Night Football game too, where a lot of people were pushing him onto like their benches, all worried, and Cook just went absolutely nuts with some magic shoulder harness or something like that. So we're going to put Xavier Worthy in our lineups. And this is one where you sort of have to just believe in Andy Reid, believe in Kansas City, and believe in the fact that they're favorites. Nothing out of the running game right now in KC. It's completely ugly there. They need a player like Worthy to step up. Do you think this would potentially limit him? You mentioned the route running, but one threat with Xavier Worthy is the manufactured rushing plays. Occasionally they give him a chance to run the ball. Do you think that they'll trust him on those, Graham? Is it a, hey, let's avoid those ones?
I think they're going to be trying to avoid the contact, at least for a couple weeks, just until like we see how this works with him. But yeah, the design stuff in terms of the screens in the red zone, like that's what they're missing. Because like you said, dude, for the third straight year, they can't run the ball. Like, yeah, it's awful. They are so one-dimensional. Like Pacheco, it looks kind of over for Pacheco, to be honest. And I mean, they can't get any push up front. It's just the same, 3.5, 4 yards per carry.
Kareem Hunt's better than Pacheco.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure Elijah Mitchell's better than Pacheco right now, and he hasn't even stepped on the field. So Pacheco is absolutely dusty right now. All right, Graham, we got to talk about it. I'm in deep depression mode about my TreVeyon Henderson bags. I knew Ramondre Stevenson would be a pain early in the season. I sort of mentally prepared myself for that. What I didn't prepare myself for was Mondre's use in the passing game, and I didn't prepare myself for Antonio Gibson being involved. Now, of course, people are going to say, Theo, do you even watch ball, bro? Ramondre Stevenson had that huge season, as a pass catcher years ago. But for me, it was TreVeyon Henderson. They draft him so early. They talk him up. He's just the talk of preseason, looks so explosive. And now it's just sort of like a lack of trust when it comes to Vrabel, whether it's Josh McDaniels. Where are we at on Henderson? Do we anticipate him seeing more work this week?
So two things. One, you can't trust him in lineups this week. I've listed him as a sit. I had him as a flex play last week and like a sketchy flex play. Two, he's like the best buy low in fantasy right now. Like, this is not the patience, y'all. Like, everybody needs to remember they played fantasy football before. Remember that rookies, it takes time for them to adjust. It takes time for them to adjust to the speed of the NFL, all of that. Like TreVeyon Henderson is legitimately one of the best pass protectors I've ever watched coming out of college. And if you watched the game last week, he got blown up in pass pro. Like, this is a strong suit of his game that right now currently isn't. It's just going to take time. This is going to take time. For this week specifically, yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to play Ramondre. I still listed him as a sit as well. But with Henderson, like, if you started 2-0 and you're kind of weak-ish at running back and you're like looking through your buys already and you're like, man, like, I really could use a third, fourth running back, like, send some offers for TreVeyon Henderson, because this is not going to stick. Like, he's going to beat out Ramondre Stevenson by midseason. And I had the same concerns as you. Like, I wrote this in tears. I mentally prepared myself as well. Like, Ramondre is going to be a thing, like, all year, like, especially on like the inside dirty work kind of carries. But this will not continue. I mean, let's rewind the clocks. Week 1, Henderson got 6 targets, beat Stevenson by XFP. He just had one bad game as a rookie. Long term, I have very little concern with TreVeyon Henderson. But yeah, for this week, like, it's going to be really hard to trust him in a lineup.
Yeah, and another rookie that I think we're going to have to put on our benches is RJ Harvey. Your thoughts on Harvey, his current situation in Denver? Very disappointing usage for him, for fantasy managers who drafted him fairly highly here, Graham. He didn't have the steam of Henderson, but there was certainly a lot of enthusiasm. A lot of us at Fantasy Points have exposure to Harvey right now as well.
I'm in the same boat. It's basically like same exact analysis I had with Henderson. It's like we knew this was going to happen. We knew J.K. Dobbins was going to be involved early in the season. The snap split was pretty close last week. Dobbins 47%, Harvey 32%. Of course, Dobbins gets most of the early down stuff, but Harvey is already running more routes. He's run 9 routes to Dobbins 6 last week. It's just going to take patience, man. It's going to take patience. We've seen the explosive ability of Harvey in the small sample so far. Yeah, again, this week, like, no way you can put him in a lineup. And I realize this is hurting a lot of teams out there, but at the end of the day, man, like, rookies, we draft these guys not for weeks 1 through 8. We draft them for October, November, December, and just the roles will keep coming up. I think RJ Harvey, while he has this like kind of Ramondre Stevenson block, like with J.K. Dobbins, him getting like legitimate passing down usage, already leading the team in routes like he did last week is pretty bullish. Again, I think he's a great buy low along with TreVeyon Henderson, especially in Dynasty. Like I think, it's probably going to be a lot harder to buy these guys in Dynasty leagues right now, just because of the long-term mindset. But, people just have this like instant gratification. Like our brains have just been broken by social media. I haven't really changed any of my analysis with Harvey and Henderson so far through 2 games.
Yeah, I think that a sobering way to like get yourself a little bit back on track is to go back to last season, to go back to 2023, look at the leading running back scorers through like the first 4 weeks of the season, and then look at the final running back scorers. So much changes throughout the course of the year. Ramondre Stevenson didn't overnight become a guy who's going to be putting up like RB1 numbers every single week. There's a reason they drafted Henderson. I think if they had incredible amount of confidence in Mondre, they wouldn't have made the selection on Henderson. So keep telling ourselves that. J.K. Dobbins also, a newsflash, the guy never holds up, ever.
Nope.
And it's unfortunate, but the guy never holds up. He's playing fantastic. If you drafted Dobbins, use him as much as you can. But there's him playing 16, 17 games is sort of a poor bet to make. It would be a career year for him in terms of games played if that sort of thing happens.
Dude, I again, it's just like one of these things. Like, let's have some context with rookies, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, first 4 games, plays 43% of the snaps. Like I remember people freaking out about Bijan, especially after that first week. Then he immediately comes out like week 2 or week 3 and just has an explosive game. Like it's going to take time with these rookie running backs, even the best ones. It takes time.
Absolutely. One player who hasn't taken any time to have a red hot start to the season is Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston as a rookie was sort of a punching bag, a guy who became a joke. How could you have taken him in dynasty rookie drafts? Look at this guy. He's such a failure. Last year, we sort of rewrote the script and now is on this unbelievable run of success, still only 23 years old, and he's playing very, very well. We saw Johnston with now, I believe it's 11 touchdown catches his last 17 games played. Very impressive. Has 3 on the season. And LA has been way more pass happy than we anticipated in the preseason. Justin Herbert looks absolutely fantastic. The Chargers are 2-0, and they have beat 2 AFC West opponents. Things are about as good as they get. Are we using Quentin Johnston in our lineups this week?
That's the thing, is like Johnston has been awesome. Awesome to start this season. 8, 150 and 3, just huge play upside. Obviously got on top of the Raiders cover 3, but this is like polar opposite matchup. We're projecting a shadow by Pat Surtain, and anybody who's been reading my article or listening for a couple of years knows I fully fade receivers. It doesn't matter really who they are unless it's like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson type talents. Fully fade these receivers against Surtain. Last week we did it with Pittman, and Pittman was held to like 4 catches for 40 yards. Yeah, I mean, if you picked up Johnson,
Calvin Ridley in week 1 completely annihilated, also had like 4 catches.
Yeah, that's the dude. I mean, Surtain picked up like a minor ankle injury last week, came back in the game. He's just a total eraser, like the only eraser at cornerback these days. But yeah, I mean, if you picked up Johnston off waivers week 1, you drafted him super late, like pat yourself on the back. Like I got this one just dead wrong. Like definitely expected Chargers to be a little more run heavy. Also expected Ladd and Keenan to lead this team in first reads, but through 2 games so far, man, it's McConkey, 27% right there, 27% with Johnston, and Keenan's right behind them at 24%. So, the Chargers are a fun offense, man. Like, we've all seen the upside with Justin Herbert. Like, we don't really need to discuss that, but like, the other thing I love about this, they don't throw to their tight ends. They don't throw to their running backs. It's just like, let's just throw to these 3 really good receivers and just kind of let the chips fall where they may. Like, Greg Roman has done a great job at like kind of adapting what he is as a coach. Like, he's done a fantastic job with this offense.
Yeah, I've made that point on a couple podcasts now with the de-emphasis of the tight end, de-emphasis of the running back position as pass catchers. It's so fantasy friendly. I think there's going to be a lot of weeks you can cram all 3 of these wide receivers in some context level into your lineup. But yeah, be very cautious. It would make total sense for Surtain to just stay on Quentin Johnston. When you look at it, he doesn't usually shadow guys. He usually plays his side. And a lot of times with like Ladd McConkey, they'll move him around so much. Johnston, it seems like this is the logical one. And if you're Denver, taking away Quentin Johnston's big playability, I think a lot of teams are going to start game planning for that. Denver actually has the ability to stop it. Speaking of Denver, tight end, we often get these crazy bad starts from guys. Sometimes they turn it around. Is Evan Engram one of them? There's a lot of fear in the marketplace right now. Engram on a new team is really not involved. We're seeing Troy Franklin is a red hot waiver wire ad this week for a lot of fantasy managers. Some people picked him up last week. Cortland Sutton still is what he is. The running game's working, and Denver's scoring points, but Evan Engram, not a whole lot there.
This is just your Sean Payton shenanigans, right? Like, this coming week, we'll probably see Mims run more routes than Troy Franklin. With Evan Engram specifically, like, I think he's droppable in like shallow 10-team leagues. Yeah. Like, if you're in a deep like FFPC league, like, you have to bench him. I don't know if he's droppable just yet, but dude, the usage has been so bad. So he had a minor calf injury week 1. Before that, he only ran a route on 31% of the team's dropbacks. This past week, it was up, but just only a little bit to like 40%. I mean, that's like totally unusable levels of player usage. Like, Dalton Kincaid, I say this every year with this guy, like, Kincaid's always at like 55 or 60% of the routes, and like, you can't really ever trust or use him. It kind of seems like we're headed that same way with Engram. They just have this rotation of receivers. Ingram's never really going to play in line. That's just never really what he's been in his career. He's always been a big slot receiver. And I figured once they traded Devon Vele, like that role would be his. But nah, man, like, they're getting Pat Bryant in there. They're getting Trent Sherfield in there. Yeah, I think if you drafted Engram in like a shallow 10-team or shallow 12-team league with only a few bench spots, like, you got to cut bait and like start streaming now, because I don't really see a pathway for like a big route share here. This is a lot worse than I thought it would be.
Yeah, and you nailed it with the big amount of routes, and certainly Engram's been a guy who's produced in a major way in fantasy. And we always talk about Engram's profile going back to when he was a younger player, like just a super athletic move tight end who's basically an overgrown wide receiver. Now he's older, so now it's sort of does he still have that juice? And he's always been sort of a PPR merchant, despite the athletic profile. It's been a player who's really benefited from excessive use in the slot and a ton of targets at the tight end position. And to his credit, he's had some big performances with them. But if he's going to be like a part-time receiver and they're using all these other guys, then yeah, I'm completely off of Evan Engram. I think if you're a dynasty manager, kind of sort of take what you can get here. This is almost a lost season for him in terms of what the reputation was just 3 weeks ago versus what the reputation is today. Engram is sort of a declining stock in dynasty, rapidly declining stock. And in redraft, there's a bunch of guys who have popped this year, guys like Juwan Johnson, guys like Brenton Strange, Harold Fannin, that hopefully you've added another player you can just simply pivot to, because Evan Engram is definitely not it this week. Graham, you have a bunch of fantasy managers who are really on edge this week. You have sort of the quarterback injury apocalypse. Joe Burrow done for maybe the season, maybe 12 weeks. You've got Jaden Daniels banged up. Looks like he'll miss this week. Justin Fields in the concussion protocol. JJ McCarthy is going to miss a few weeks. Brock Purdy already on the injured reserve. This is an absolute mess. You've got fantasy managers sort of just looking all over the place. there's a bunch of backups that are now going to be starting. Then you've got your mix of your low-end QB2s, high-end QB3s. You might be able to pick up off of waivers. Call it the Geno Smiths, the Matt Stafford, those sort of tiers of guys. Who would be a quarterback that is going to be widely available to managers that if you needed to get by this week, you could put into your lineups?
So this week, I really like Marcus Mariota. I think there's going to be a lot of fantasy managers, like you outlined, like needing some level of like floor and ceiling. Justin Fields is out, by the way. He's already ruled out. So we've got a slew of just pretty brutal injuries of all players. Obviously Burrow, Daniels, highly drafted. Fields is on a lot of teams. I'm not like expecting a huge game from Mariota, but I do think his floor is pretty high. Like you look at the 6 quarters of relief work he had last year. He went 33 of 41, 366 yards, had 4 touchdowns passing, but he also added 16 for 90 and 1 rushing. And obviously we've known for his entire career dating back to college at Oregon, like he's always been a pretty good runner, but even in his older age, like that's still persisted. They're not going to do the design stuff that they do for Daniels, like not as much, but he can certainly like extend plays and kind of keep the same RPO type scheme. And this is a good spot. Max Crosby is just one man. He's an awesome man, but we've seen the Raiders secondary so far, man. They're just like, they're really slow. Linebackers are really slow. This is a really nice spot. Debo, McLaurin, have to downgrade them a little bit in this spot, but I like Mariota quite a bit. We should also talk Jake Browning.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna bring him up. That's a great professional segue. I love your first of all, I love your Mariota call. I think Mariota also, like, occasionally I'm gonna make a DFS call. I think that like a Marcus Mariota, Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel lineup might be a way to play this, where a lot of people are going to be using Jacory. See, we're talking DFS, Graham. We're giving you bonus content here on Fantasy Points YouTube. I think that Jacory Croskey-Merritt's going to be widely rostered. Going to be very, very owned in DFS. I think that Debo and McLaurin together, there's a little bit of a symbiotic relationship. McLaurin had the big game with him in Week 18 last year, has a connection with Mariota. And then you've got Debo Samuel, who might be used a little bit more as a runner. And those guys, I think it'll be consolidated targets from Mariota. You get the rushing upside of Mariota. So I love Mariota this week. I think that's a fantastic one. Really interested to hear your thoughts on Browning, because I've been talking him up as a huge waiver wire addition, especially for Superflex managers. I don't think you get a better opportunity this year outside of maybe Jalen Milroe getting some starts in Seattle, which is looking a little less likely with the way they're playing. Browning had 5 QB1 weeks in 2023. He won 4 games. This is an experienced player, and the offensive circumstances don't change, do they, Graham? He still has some of the best wide receivers, maybe the best player in the game in Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, and the game flow. They're dogs against Minnesota this week.
Yeah, I like Browning too, man. I think he's not, for this week specifically, he doesn't have like the floor and ceiling of Mariota. Obviously, he doesn't run, but very underrated for fantasy. I mean, in those 7 starts he made in relief of Burrow, what was it, 2023? I mean, he was QB7, QB6 in yards per game. And in those games, dude, I mean, the Bengals kind of did their thing. Zach Taylor was still pretty pass heavy. They were 7th in pass rate. And why wouldn't you be? I mean, you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So far, we have not seen anything out of their run game that makes me think that they're going to be able to pick up the run game, especially without Joe Burrow. Defenses are just going to be stuffing the box in obvious run situations. So I still see this as Browning's never going to have like amazing efficiency. He's not going to come out and put up like a 6 or 7%, pass touchdown rate, but the volume will be there. I think he's like a low end quarterback 1 for the rest of the season, like high end QB2, like you were outlining in Superflex leagues for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. If you're in a single QB format, go ahead and get Jake Browning, sort of see where this thing goes. He's going to be viable. And Graham, we love quarterbacks that are sort of like for like replacements. Even if it's a talent downgrade, we know that the offense doesn't have to change. It's not going to be like a Miami situation last year where it's like, oh my gosh, they lose Tua and everybody's stats go down. I think Jamar Chase is still locked in. Chase Brown completely locked in. And I think maybe T. Higgins is the one that loses a little bit. Go ahead and listen to School of Scott. Scott Barrett talked a little bit about that with T. Higgins in this offense. With maybe a little more hyper targeting Jamar Chase, which is never a bad thing for a quarterback to do. Every week here on Fantasy Football Daily, Graham and I are going to take some of your start-sit questions. I put it out on X today. Last week, the start-sit questions were fantastic. Let's try to rip through a few of these, Graham. First one is from Bruce Kennerson, Dookie B, who's continually supporting our Fantasy Points YouTube. Really, really a good guy. Plays a lot of high stakes. Travis Hunter or Isaiah Pacheco in PPR flex play?
Got to go Hunter. Pacheco, I mean, like we were just talking earlier in the show, it looks kind of over for Pacheco. I think we'll see Brashard Smith at some point this season. They'll give him a little bit of run.
Yeah, I'm with you. Brashard, I wrote him up in the waiver wire article as just a stash.
Yep.
But Travis Hunter easily over Pacheco. And Travis Hunter is not really doing anything, but he still has a pulse. I'm going to go with him over Pacheco. Next question is from Trocadero. Says two of Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Travis Hunter, Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman. This is a PPR format. So again, it's Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Travis Hunter, Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman. He needs to start two of them.
Waddle's in there for me. I mean, Miami's going to be trailing that whole game.
You know what? We'll also mention that this comes out after the Thursday game.
Sure.
So let's take Waddle out of the equation. We'll go Ridley, Hunter, Jeudy, and Pittman. Pick two of those guys.
I guess Ridley and Jeudy. Pittman's in that equation for sure. Much better matchup this week, but I think I'd go Ridley and Jeudy.
Yeah, I think Judy's a play this week because, again, if they completely stuff the run, I think they'll see additional targets for him. Calvin Ridley's just not doing anything for me right now.
Yeah.
I might even roll the dice on Pittman. I think that
That's
Tennessee on the road, I think I might go Pittman. So we're close on that one. Here's a super flex question. QB2 for week 3, choosing between Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Flacco, or Browning.
Oh, Browning. Yeah.
Browning for sure for me as well.
Yeah.
Let's take a question from this guy's name is Ox Crypto Nani. Okay. Ox Crypto Nani says Cam Scattaboo, TreVeyon Henderson, or Jordan Mason as an RB2. So Scattaboo, TreVeyon Henderson, or Jordan Mason as an RB2.
Definitely Mason. He's like must play for me this week, even with Carson Wentz under center. I mean, they are like, they've got nothing else behind him, like Mason's an awesome play this week.
Yeah, and Cam Akers is going to be on the practice squad this week. He's not going to be active. So, it's absolutely nothing. I think Mason is actually a very strong start and one that I think will have 20 touches this week, Graham. Mason, I think, is in a very, very good spot. I think Scattaboo is more trustworthy than TreVeyon this week. It actually really pains me to say that, but I think Scattaboo sort of taking over that backfield. Tyrone Tracy got the receiving work, but Scattaboo, the legend grows for Scattaboo. You just know that they're going to do a trick play or something with him against Kansas City this week. It's going to be like a Cam Scattaboo touchdown pass, and everybody's going to lose their minds. Let's keep this going. The Dapper Capper says, need to start two of the following 3. Kenneth Walker, Omarion Hampton, or Tony Pollard. I already know which way you're going to go on this one.
Oh, yeah, Walker and Pollard.
Yeah, Walker and Pollard. And maybe you could just talk a little bit about Tony Pollard, sort of the usage. Fantasy Points data, we have the Bell Cow report, which is one of the coolest things on Fantasy Points data. Tony Pollard is way, way up there in the Bell Cow report.
Yeah, huge usage. Kind of expected this, right? With no Tyjae Spears. Spears is going to miss the next 2 games at least with that ankle injury. Pollard has been just rock solid. I wish he had a few more targets in the passing game. He has just 2 targets so far, but just a ginormous workload. I mean, you can't really ask for much else. I think, I'm just going to keep writing up Pollard the same way. Like, he's just a really great volume-based RB2. He's going to get like 90% of the snaps once again. You just have to pray that the Titans are good enough this coming week to get into the end zone, kind of give him, at least one shot at a goal line touchdown. Kind of shocking spread too, by the way. I mean, the Colts have been rolling. They're only 3.5-point favorites against the Titans this week. So, if you want to hang your hat on a little bit of hope for the Titans offense, there is that.
On the road in Tennessee. So it's a divisional matchup. This is one where I think there's going to be, they're really going to go for it. Tennessee, they were really competitive with Denver at times, everything sort of fell off the ropes against LA. Another big test for Daniel Jones, but he is in our circle of trust right now. QB2 on the season. The last one we'll take, and it's from we used one of this person's questions last week. FFFFFFF for reals wants to know Keon Coleman or Stephon Diggs in half-point PPR.
Oh man, it's over for Diggs. Diggs lost route share last week too, like behind Quinshon Judkins again. Coleman, you just roll with Josh Allen and just pray that Coleman gets a long touchdown.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, that's the one. And again, we're recording this before Thursday, but we got to give Keon Coleman a little bit of love there. Graham, this was awesome. Make sure you are checking out fantasypoints.com. Use the code Theo for 15% off. If you're listening to this show on the podcast, go ahead to Fantasy Points YouTube. Give us a subscribe there. And if you're watching this on Fantasy Points YouTube, do us a favor and go and subscribe to Fantasy Football Daily anywhere you get your podcasts. It helps us out a lot. It doesn't cost you a thing. Check out School of Scott every single week. Scott Barrett and I dropping a really, really fun show. Look for Graham every single week here with me on this Start Sit. And check out Dynasty Life, my Dynasty show. You can find that anywhere you get your podcasts. We're everywhere here at Fantasy Points. We're going to help you crush your leagues this season.